You know what happens with these penultimate episodes of seasons? All the secrets start coming out. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. Penultimate episode of the first season of Bel-Air, which means the episode before the last. This one is titled Can't Knock the Hustle. And like a lot of penultimate episodes for seasons, it does a lot to sort of put out all the dirty laundry that has sort of culminated over the season, over the course of the season. And so this episode starts with the family getting ready to go to church. They're going to go to church and sort of, for Uncle Phil, it's more of a PR stunt or a PR statement, but it's also the first time that most of the family has been back to this church in ages. But they're doing it also as sort of this last push to make themselves visible before the debate that occurs. While at the church, they start running into people that they knew or know. Ashley asked the Reverend, to, "Hey, can you make a little bit more push for LGBTQ inclusivity aside from just the church choir?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll look into that. We're making moves for that." Sort of brings up a red flag for Viv. She's like, "Oh, she knows that Ashley has always been about changes and social stuff and climate change, but this is a new thing that she's sort of putting her flag in the sand for." So it just raises a red flag. Hillary sees a friend that she used to have back in the day, played by Karuchi Tran, who has like is also an influencer, and Hillary's now trying to sort of see if they can make it work, make a pack together. It's 10.2 million viewers she has. They know each other. She's aware of Hillary's brand, but it doesn't sound like it was always 100% a positive thing. They are stopped before and have to move into the church before they have a full-on conversation about working together. But I don't think that's going to go the way that Hillary thinks it's going to go. I think what we've learned just in history. I mean, granted, Karuchi is half, but I don't know how her ethnicity is being played in this show. But typically, when women of color see another woman being sexual or any forms, they kind of spit at them and point at them and say no. I hope that that's going to get depicted, I feel, in some way or another. She's going to be like, "Yeah, no, I'd like to work with you, but I ain't about associating with that," and sort of speaking down to us. So I don't think that's going to go the way that Hillary expects it to go. But the main thing at the church is that Carlton's supposed to do a solo. And apparently this has been his thing back in the day. He used to do the solos all the time. And he's a solid singer. He gets up there to start singing, but then has a panic attack, and anxiety sort of just comes down on him, and he runs off, and he can't complete his solo. Complete stage fright, complete just everything. You can see it's filmed in a way that it's sort of you can sort of see what it is he sees because he starts seeing with his eyes closed. The second he opens, it just loses it. Once they're back home, they start all work through it. Will and Hillary sort of have a heart to heart. So he's making him some breakfast, and Will was like, he was doing well. Do you know sort of what's going on with Carlton? And Hillary's like, "Yeah, he's just under a lot of stress and all this." And it's like, "No, your brother likes to party." And she's like, "Wait, yeah, I mean, we all do." She's not aware, as no one is in this family, how much partying, about the coke and Xanax and all that stuff. And Will tells her that in secret. And she's like, "Well, you need to go talk to him and just see if he's okay and see what he needs." And Will's like, "Well, why can't you?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know this," which is a smart way to play that. I think it would have made the situation between Will and Carlton worse had she gone there, because she's like, "Well, who's dropping a dime? The only people who know this are me, Lisa, and Will, and Lisa's not here." So she's like, "No, you were the one who knows, so you're the one who needs to go have that conversation with him." So he goes, they have a heart to heart. Again, another moment that is trying to make me feel that Carlton's a human person. But this episode was probably the best that I've seen Carlton, and the most human that he has been. But they have a heart to heart, and he's a bit defensive at first. A key point for folks who have anxiety is talking about having anxiety. So when a person with anxiety has to say that they have anxiety, they gain more anxiety, and it just sort of becomes this weighted pressure. And he has that with Will. But Will tells him straight up, like, "Hey, anytime you get that feeling, that anxiety is too much, or you feel like you need to go in there and do the coke and do the Xanax, come to me. Look at me. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be that counterweight for you to sort of get out of the muck of whatever it is you're in. And you can see a genuine on his face, Carlton, like, I really appreciate that. Thank you. He does ask to be left alone, and it's for a brief moment that we don't know. He looks into the room, his coke room, if you will. He has a bat cave of coke. That's what he does for his coke room. He looks into it, and we get this moment where we cut, and we don't know whether or not he's going to or he is. But Will has put that olive branch out there that I am there for you. G does come through like a G does with the dossier on Will's dad, and he gives it to him. He lets Will know that he's alive, but he also lets him know that what's in there you may want to know, but it is going to change and upend your life, your career, and the life that you have now for the Banks family. It's clear that he wants to say more, but he chooses not to. He kind of lets it breathe and lets Will sort of get on that path himself to figure out if this is something that he wants to do. Meanwhile, Uncle Phil is kind of going through sort of a bullet point plan of what to do for the debate. He and G are still at odds with each other, which I didn't really mention the last time. It is very ballsy of Uncle Phil to be so disrespectful. I know he works for him. I know G works for Uncle Phil. But this man knows where the bodies are, and he's clearly about that business. So for you to be as tough with this man as you are trying to be, you're lucky he loves you. Because I feel like he'd end you real quick. But between he and his campaign manager, played by Dwayne Martin, and G, they sort of are having a powwow about how to handle the debate. Dwayne Martin's character's like, yo, get dirty, get filthy, because Wilkes is going to get filthy and dirty with you. And G kind of just has this look like, I don't think that's the way to go. I don't think that's the way to play it. And Uncle Phil kind of weighs all the options. He's just trying to decide which way is the best way to go. And he doesn't know. It's like, you guys have both laid out the plans for me, but he inevitably needs to make the decision. Viv is on her paint life, and she goes to a meeting for a painting fellowship. And at the meeting, the two heads, the people making decisions, are two black women, two recognizable black women. One is the OG Aunt Vi for the Bankses, but or the OG Vi, Will's mom in the original series, and the second OG Aunt Viv. We have three Aunt Vivs now. The second OG Aunt Viv are the two ladies sort of making this decision. And Aunt Viv goes in there and lays it out. She's ready to like present herself, put the paintings out there, and they're like, no. We got this. We know what this art does. We know what this talks about. Why do you want to do this? And why did you stop painting? And Viv goes through this thing where she says, at first, I could tell you the easy thing that like life and the responsibilities of life sort of just took the paintbrush away from me. And I kind of just got up under that. But that's not the case. What it is, and it seems such a simple throwaway like monologue and sequence, but it is powerful, especially for somebody who was in art. As a black person, specifically as a black woman, it is difficult to paint. Like the painting part is easy. It is difficult to paint and then have to walk into these rooms with people who are rich old white men or young white men, just white people in general, and have to explain your blackness, explain what it is that this means, explain why this is the way that it is, explain how you came with your process, and it becomes this big burden where you have to walk into these rooms where there aren't people who look like you, and you have to go above and beyond to make them feel comfortable with the art that you've put out there. And she's just like, I didn't want to do that, and I didn't have time for that. And they're like, well, why are you back? And she's like, my nephew. My nephew's lit that fire up under my ass. He's a guy who doesn't care, is unapologetically him, and that made me be unapologetically me, and made me just get back to painting. And I started, and then it just opened up, and it just started pouring out of it, and now I know that this is nothing else that I can do. That part spoke a lot to me. As a person who's an artist, it's a key scene, and they were like, "Look, we were going to make it. You were the person anyway. We just wanted to hear what your answers were." And so they gave her 24 hours to think and mull over the fellowship. But the answer is still her call. But it's hers if she wants it. Will goes to Uncle Phil with the dossier that G has gotten him, and is like, and is pretty emotional, and says, "I don't want to mess anything up. This I had G look for my father, and this is what he got from me. But you've been more of a father to me than he could ever be, and so I don't want to mess up what we have and what you have or what this is." And so he gives it to Uncle Phil, and Uncle Phil's like, "You mean the world to me." They hug. It's very powerful. It's a very poignant moment to sort of the tough love that Uncle Phil is sort of given at the beginning of this with Will has sort of worked out, and he now there's a respect and a love, admiration that the two of them share. But you also know that the second Will leaves that room, G got some explaining to do, and so G comes in and they get at it. A lot of disrespect occurs, but a lot of heart and hurt gets thrown out there too. Uncle Phil uses the line is like, "Yo, you want Will to know about his father because you feel bad that you're not around Joe's son," which is a thread from the original series. His son comes back and kind of swindles him a little bit, but um, that is still at play here. And my man G is like, "Hold up, what?" And they start kind of going down this rabbit hole of you, Uncle Phil, um, have a tendency to aspire and keep moving the goalposts of what you want in life while it suffocates your family. Your son suffers from anxiety and is so determined to try to please you at all times. Your wife is kind of completely shuttered and shuttered her art life. Your daughter and he and Uncle Phil's like, "Hey, stop that. We're not about to go down every damn member of my family," because she knows all of it. I'm sure that G is well aware that Ashley is of the LGBTQ community. The family's not aware. Hell, Vivian tries to get that from Ash, and Ash is like, "No, you don't need to know about that. I like climate change. I deal with LGBTQI," and she's like, "I'm here for you if you want." And Ash says, "I'm not willing to give that to you." So G and Uncle Phil come to an agreement, and the agreement is that you're fired. But G tells him like, "You can't fire me because if you fire me now, it's going to raise a red flag for your campaign, and it's going to start causing more questions than answers. And so you're going to need to have me here. What we'll do is say that I want an administrative leave, and I'm going to go deal with some family stuff." And they have a hug and a clap, and G kind of just whispers in his ear and tells him like, "Hey, do the thing that I expect you to do. Be the man that I expect you to be." And Phil is kind of broken up, and I think this is what hits him because in the back end of the episode, it does sort of sound like G might be like sort of whispering in his ear like, "This is how you should handle this." But Uncle Phil and Uncle have sort of a heart to heart about the fellowship, and she's saying, "I can't take this fellowship. I can't. There's going to be so many obligations, so many tours, so many briefings and speaking engagements and all of this. I can't leave the family now, especially if G is on an administrative leave. You're going to be a DA. We're just not going to be able to do that." And so it's another thread of another family member having to give up something so that Uncle Phil can do what it is that he wants to do. And he's like, "No, I'm good enough. I can do this. Like, I can do this." She's like, "As a DA, you can't." So he leaves and she calls the two ladies and lets them know that I can't take the job. She's freaking out. Like, and she just goes over the litany of lists of things that why she can't do it. And they stop her and they're like, "Hey, we told you 24 hours. There's a reason why we don't accept an answer within 24 hours because you're still siphoning through things. Your brain is still kind of like going things, and you just called while you're going through the negative aspects of it and tried to call us. So again, respectfully, call us after 24 hours." And so they put a pin in that. Hillary has a moment where she calls Jazz and goes to pick up the signs and stuff from the old influencer house to just help out. Their chemistry is starting to grow more and more. She has a moment where she is like, "Hey, I want to do this on my own," and Jazz is like, "Hold on, I'm here. I'm doing this. I'm helping you out." But she is trying to upend herself from this influencer and this influencer house on her own merits without really asking for help. The scrubbing of the thought thirsty chef videos have occurred. They're all offline. I don't really. That's a line that I'm like, I call BS. Like, yeah, sure, you might have scrubbed it from the internet, but that still exists. It's able once it's out there, it's out there. Like it's never going away. But sure, for the purposes of the show, I'll believe it. But she's trying to do it on her own. But she's also just getting slightly more connected with Jazz, and they started to go kick it a little bit more. Carlton and Will have a heart to heart, and Carlton's sort of just like, I'm there for you if you need anything in regards to your father, because he spoke to him about his father before. He spoke to him his father at the church, and he's like, I decided that I don't want to know about my father. That you guys are my family, and Carlton's like, well, it's okay if you do. We're still your family if you're not. And they kind of are having more and more just genuine conversations with each other. Will mentions that Lisa's not answering her phone anymore. And Carlton's like, yeah, that's just sort of what she does. Every now and then she doesn't charge her phone. But what we find out is that Lisa is kind of being told not to answer her phone, as her father, Wilkes, is sort of letting her know that Will is not who he says he is. And what I've always said is that sequence at the beginning when they are having sex, and she says, I trust you. This is sort of where that comes in, because Lisa is told by her father that Will has a gun charge and it was waived by Uncle Phil. And this comes from Judge Roberts. She's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to call that. And he's like, all right, cool. Go ask him yourself. And then once you find out, come back here and you know what side you need to be on. So Lisa shows up and is pretty emotional. Carlton, bravo. This is when I was like, son of a bitch. Now you're a good dude. Carlton tries to go to bat for Will. It's like, this ain't what it looks like, and he is trying. What would have been earlier in the season, Carlton being like, yeah, he ain't shit. Come back with me, mama. He's like, no, this isn't what it looks like. But Will takes charge and handles the situation and kind of is like, can we talk? And they go talk, and he lays it out on what really happened. She's like, did you shoot someone? He's like, no, I shot in the air. It was for trying to break up a fight. But yes, the charges were waived. And she's like, I appreciate you finally telling the truth. It doesn't seem like the relationship is great. It seems mendable, but I don't know if she might have some trust issues from this point. But she does say, well, my dad knows and got it from Roberts. And for this debate tonight, this is going to get grimy. So she takes off, and Will and Carlton have to kind of get on this mad race to go inform Uncle Phil, who is at the debate, chilling, hanging out. They finally get in to see him, and they let him know what's happening. And Uncle Phil says, cool, then I know what to do. I'm going to go out there and do this debate. I know what to do, and I don't regret a thing. He grabs them both and is like, I don't regret any of this. Because Will kind of says, like, I wish I hadn't done this. I wish my mom hadn't gotten you involved. I wouldn't mess up your family. And Uncle Phil's like, no, I don't hear none of that. The family is better for you. Carlton seems to be in a better place. Viv is out here painting, living her best life. Will has had a positive aspect on pretty much everybody here, except for Ashley, because we just don't see her often. But he has had some type of influence on everybody. Uncle Phil goes out there to do his debate, and he basically concedes. He says that he now needs to worry about his family, and his family comes first, even though that is something that he's always preached. He has not always done it. Now he's going to do it. And so he backs out of the race and has everybody give their support and votes that they were going to give him to Wilkes. Everybody's shocked. Everybody's surprised. This is that whispering that G had in his ear, like doing it somewhere. He's clapping in the sky, like, well done, well done. But he tells Aunt Viv, go get that fellowship. That's yours. Go get it. And that's how the episode ends. It's a very poignant episode. A lot to sort of digest about the family dynamics. But it's kind of how I said it was going to end. The debate was going to be the main part. I thought it might go a little bit further. It might be a little bit more messy, if you will. A lot of the mess got taken care of before the debate happened. I don't know how Will and Lisa are going to be after this. It is clear that there's still a chemistry. They do that thing that young couples period, but when they're longing for each other and they're like, I can't be around you, but I can, and they just kind of just like put their noses together and breathe each other's air, but then nothing happens. That's sort of what happens. So there's still a chemistry. There's still a genuine love there. And I don't know now that Wilkes is not going to put all this information out there, not going to blast it all out, that it won't have an effect. I think the biggest part of this next episode will be that while it is clear that Will is not looking for his father, I think his father's just going to show up. And when his father just shows up, it's going to upend everything that they have. Because I think now this has ended in a way that everybody is sort of good. Carlin has said he's thrown away all his drugs. I don't believe you. I think whatever happens with Carucci is going to have a sort of negative effect on Hillary. I don't think that's going to go the way that she plans for it to go. But I think Aunt Viv is going to take this fellowship. But I feel like it's going to come with like a carrot from old Green Eyes, Michael Ealy, who's like, I got that fellowship. Come get these. And so there are a lot of things that are still in play with the penultimate episode. It ended and answered a lot of things in this season, whereas I think this season finale is going to open up a lot of things that are to take place in the second season, which has already been greenlit. So, what did you guys think about this latest episode of Bel-Air? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at hollywoodrdid@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.